Oh, there you go.
Have a great event, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give it a couple of seconds while people start trickling into the Zoom. Thank you all for being here today. We'll get started very shortly.
You haven't admitted everybody.
Oh, these people. One second. People coming in now? Yeah.
Yep, I see it.
Perfect. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started shortly. Thank you all for being here. All right. So now 10:01, we're going to get started. Good morning, everyone. My name is Augie Pimentel. I am the program coordinator here for the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Chamber, I'd like to thank you all so much for being here today with us this Wednesday morning for this month's Small Business Strong session with LISC LA. As we get started, a couple of reminders I'd like to share out with you all. Number one, please just make sure that you are on mute when entering the Zoom, just so that way there's no background noise when our speakers are presenting. Number two, feel free to use the chat to quickly introduce yourself and maybe the name of your business. And also feel free to use the chat for questions that may come up during the presentation. Somebody from our team will go ahead and monitor the chat, and during the Q&A portion, we'll go ahead and read off those questions that come through. And then lastly, the recording and the presentation slides for today will be shared with all of you in a post email. So you could expect that a little bit later on today. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Kevin Keene here, our co-chair of the Small Business Council at the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. So Kevin, go ahead and take it away.
So on behalf of our president and CEO, Maria Salinas, the LA Chamber of Commerce Board, and our Small Business Council, I want to thank you for joining us. A moment to thank our entrepreneurship and innovation team for making this possible. I also want to thank our sponsors, Wells Fargo, GoBiz, and our Together in LA partners. We could not do this without their support. I also want to thank our very important partners at LISC LA for taking the time to join us. LISC has been instrumental in supporting the small business community, and I look forward to today's conversation. So without delay, I'd like to introduce Madison Richards and Deborah Membreno. Madison, please take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Just share my screen. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Wonderful. So I am here today to talk about LISC LA's access to capital. I'm going to do a quick overview of LISC, who we are, what we do, talk about our impact in small business lending, and then go over our lending products and loan process before fielding questions at the end. Feel free to throw questions in the chat as I go, and our moderator will read them out for us at the end. So why LISC? We are a national community development financial institution that works with residents and partners to forge resilient and inclusive communities of opportunity across America. We strive to make these places all across America great places to live, work, visit, do business, and raise families. So LISC is a national organization, and Los Angeles is one of many local offices. And we do various things as a CDFI, from affordable housing to what we're talking about today, which is small business lending, access to capital. So LISC LA, over the last decade or so, has invested $10 million in low-cost loans to small businesses and nonprofits led by people of color. Additionally, we have granted $115 million in small business grants to micro entrepreneurs, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations. So now we will go over our small business products. Our small business products fall into 3 categories. First, we have permanent working capital. Then we have acquisition, leasehold, improvement, and furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Then commercial real estate. So it's important to note that permanent working capital is not a line of credit. Unfortunately, LISC is not able to provide revolving lines of credit where you can draw, pay back, draw, pay back. So this is permanent working capital, which is best used for a particular project, maybe increasing inventory or bridging receivables when executing a large contract and before getting paid for executing said contract. For all of our 3 categories of loans, the amount ranges from 100,000 up to 5 million for commercial real estate. That's commercial real estate acquisition or construction. We do both. Interest rates range from 3 to 8%. For permanent working capital, the term is up to 5 years. And for our other 2 categories, it's up to 10. Collateral is generally required and can range from a UCC on business assets for permanent working capital loans up to the first DOT on the mortgage of the subject commercial property. It's important to note that personal guarantees are required for all of LISC's loans. Essentially, what that means is that the business owner providing the personal guarantee is saying, even if next month my business revenues do not cover my loan payment, I will pay the loan payment out of pocket. Of course, we underwrite you. We strive to make sure that you will be repaying business loan from your business cash flows. But the personal guarantee is a way to really assess the commitment of the small business owner and engage them further. Entrepreneurs of Color Fund. So I'll talk briefly about 2 specific programs that we have going on currently on access to capital. These are very much in addition to our regular lending, regular small business loan products that I just went over. So they're additive. So first we have the Entrepreneurs of Color Fund. This is a partnership between LISC LA, Acción Opportunity Fund, Inclusive Action for the City, Vermont Slauson, Economic Development Corporation, and PACE. So you'll hopefully remember from the last slide that LISC generally loans from $100,000 and up. Of course, that leaves the whole range of capital from $99,000 and below. And that is where Acción Opportunity Fund and Inclusive Action come in. So we work with them so that small businesses who need capital less than $100,000 have a place to go, have a strong lender that's like ready to serve them. So Acción Opportunity Fund focuses on the loans from $30,000 to $100,000, generally working capital loans, but they all also finance heavier equipment, large trucks and trailers, food trucks, for example. And then Inclusive Action does working capital loans, $5,000 to $30,000. They also refinance predatory debts. So if a small business owner has $10,000 in debt and they're paying an interest rate above 10%, 15, maybe even 20, Inclusive Action is a really great place for them to go. Free up the cash flow so that they can improve their operations. And then last but not least, Vermont Slauson and PACE provide technical assistance services. So that's essentially free consulting. They cover everything from financial planning, financial management, and basic accounting. They won't train you how to be an accountant, but they will teach you what you need to know to run the accounting side of your business. And then they also do credit counseling and marketing, truly anything you need help with, they're a great place to go. So all 5 organizations make up the Entrepreneurs of Color Fund. Next, we have what we call our Asset Building for Communities of Color program, or the ABC program for short. So thanks to a $20 million investment from Wells Fargo, LISC has created the ABC program focused on asset building, ownership, and creation of generational wealth opportunities for diverse owned businesses across LA County. This program will officially launch in summer of 2022, so the products themselves are not yet available, but we do want to share kind of what's coming down the line. This program will have 4 categories. The first of which is acquisition assistance. So it's a 0% interest forgivable capital. It's best to think about this as a forgivable loan up to $500,000 to assist in commercial real estate acquisition. Essentially, this is commercial down payment assistance. Then the growth capital. So it's patient growth capital of up to $250,000 for businesses who have been in operation for less than 2 years. This is an equity-like product that will assist businesses in filling their friends and family financing gap. And again, the focus on that is acquiring assets that will help a new business grow. And then we have microloans, which are low-cost microloans up to $30,000 in order to purchase key assets. And last but not least, cash grants up to $5,000. The emphasis of those cash grants also being on purchasing assets or investing in technologies to help businesses grow and scale. If you're interested in more information on this program, please go to lisc.org/Los-Angeles/ABC-fund. It's on the LISC LA website. Towards the bottom of that page, you can subscribe to the ABC program mailing list. So as soon as an application opens, as soon as more details are established, even when we'll open the application is established, you will get an email notification with that new information. There's also an FAQ page on that website that really outlines these 4 categories a bit more in detail and explains further kind of what the premise or what the practice of forgivable capital can kind of mean. Okay, so if a small business applies to any of our is interested in any of our loan products, this is the process that they will go through. First, there will be a period of discovery where LISC as a lender will learn about your business, learn about you, understand your sales and challenges, and really identify any discrepancies just to make sure that all the information matches up and we have a full and complete picture of what your business is and what it does. Then we'll go into underwriting, where the underwriter will dig into your financials, review a credit report, analyze relevant information, and then coordinate with the business and national lender or national office rather on any non-credit issues that would come up in a credit or clear report. Then there's a consideration period where our credit committee at LISC National will review the request that the underwriter makes. The underwriter will, based on all the information that the small business submits and questions that they respond to, submit a complete package proposal, and then credit committee will consider that to make the decision on the request. They'll challenge assumptions that were made in that proposal to determine if the risk is sufficiently understood and mitigated. And then they will ask follow-up questions if any doubts remain in order to make that final decision. Last but not least, there's a period of engagement where the borrower will kind of re-engage with the process to provide any necessary information and verification documents in order to close the loan and be funded. So borrowers should expect to provide lots of information in the underwriting process. This includes permission to do a credit and character search. The character search is called a clear report, and primarily that's checking for personal bankruptcies. Important to note that a bankruptcy does not disqualify you from a LISC loan, but we will want to understand where you're at in that process and kind of what happened and how you've recovered. Requests for financial documents. So we will review your personal tax returns, your business tax returns, interim financial statements for the more recent year that does not yet have a filed tax return, business debt schedule, articles of incorporation, a W-9, IRS determination letter, lease agreement if relevant for loans like leasehold improvements, and then any contracts or quotes as relevant to the loan type and the project for which you're seeking financing. It's important to note that for LISC loans, borrowers must be a corporate entity, partnership, LLC, or nonprofit organization. This means that we cannot fund sole proprietorships. So if your entity files Schedule C taxes, unfortunately, you're not eligible for a LISC loan, but we do have partners that we can connect you to that can lend to sole proprietors. So then we also have just a list of kind of general minimum criteria for economic development loan products. We're going to look for any three of those categories: the permanent working capital, leasehold improvements, to commercial property acquisition. We're going to look to see that your business has been in business for at least 2 years. You have at least 100,000 in annual business revenue. You have a 600 minimum credit score. You're putting 10% equity into the financed project. You have a 1.2 global debt service coverage ratio. And essentially what that means is after you've paid all your other obligations, your bills, your vendors, your electric, you are able to pay LISC back. For every dollar you owe us, you have $1.20 to pay it back. And really what that's making sure is that you have the cash flow to repay for repayment, but we're not overextending you in the debt that we are lending, making sure that you have it strap your operations in other ways, repaying the loan. Like I mentioned, the borrower must be a corporate entity, nonprofit, C Corp, partnership, LLC. And the principal owners must be US citizens or permanent residents. Okay, so lots of information. I'm wondering if anyone has questions.
I'll start just as with it. So you mentioned 3 different types of loans. What if the answer is yes, I need all of that? How does a business find out exactly what they need? How do they navigate that? Because they know they need money and they know the answer is yes. So how would they go about understanding exactly what they need and figuring that out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically I recommend that small businesses think about their priorities. So, lots of small business owners have a dozen projects that they hope to complete for their, within their business that all aim to kind of grow, scale, increase their reach. So it's a matter of prioritizing which one comes first. So, before you purchase commercial property, you'll probably need to increase your inventory in order to increase your sales, or increase your marketing in order to increase your sales, which will require increased inventory. So I would start by prioritizing, thinking what needs to come first, and then starting there. As a general rule, LISC really just does one project at a time. That's not to say that we won't lend to a borrower twice. But we won't underwrite 2 loans for 2 different projects simultaneously. It's good to take one thing on at a time. And then if a small business owner is kind of further uncertain, weighing their options, has tons of ideas, which is always great and exciting, I would really recommend looking into a technical assistance provider. So we have, Vermont Slauson and Pace collaborate with us on the Entrepreneurs of Color Fund. They're great resources no matter what you're looking for. And they might be able to help a small business owner that's kind of unsure of their next steps think through what the best course of action is and help them chart a medium to even long-term plan of different projects they want to complete and how to secure the necessary financing along the way.
Okay, a follow-up question for that one.
Yeah.
If you look at the requirements for or the documentation that's required for a loan, if this is let's say it's my first loan, this is a healthy bit of information. Is there a way, or is there somebody that can help kind of figure out and prepare? Because this is, I don't want to say it's a lot, but it takes a little bit of effort to put all this together. So is that part of that discovery process to kind of help prepare this?
Definitely. So I work one-on-one with borrowers or even potential borrowers, let's call them, who aren't yet sure but think they're interested in a loan. So I'll work with them to go through this list and kind of collect everything, explain the things they might not be sure of. I also have a colleague who does the same thing. So we kind of tag team them, divide and conquer. But it is definitely a process, and it is not at all meant to overwhelm. So we like to kind of approach it as the business is able, I'd say. So sometimes, depending on the request, we'll say, hey, like, just send us 3 years of business tax returns. We'll review that and then go from there. If those look like, all right, this looks like you could take on about $100,000 in debt, let's dig into the rest of it and see if we can make that happen. So we really do try and go case by case and meet small businesses where they're at. And then if, for example, if a small business owner doesn't have profit and loss statements or balance sheet for, let's say we were in June, if they don't have it for Q1 of 2022, that's not necessarily something that LISC can do, but we have technical assistance partners that are really good and specialize in that. So we're able to refer them there to get those things prepared and kind of get those financials in order. Something I like to kind of recommend or even comment is this, while it can definitely be an overwhelming list, especially for a first-time business borrower, it is fairly standard. And so it's a really good practice that even if you're not going to get a loan today or even in the next week or next month, maybe even the next year, it's a really good practice to keep this list in mind and say, okay, so I know I need to be saving my business and personal tax returns to a special file on my computer or in a secure Google Drive, whatever your organization system is, so that when that time comes, you're ready. And you need, be preparing profit and loss statements and balance sheets, or have an accountant that does that, so that when the time comes, you're ready and you have what you need.
That's excellent. So before I ask more questions, so what I hear you saying is, don't worry about it, just call and we'll help you figure it out. Right. So I think that's part and parcel of it, is you don't need to know all the answers. Give us a call and then we'll walk you through and figure out what makes sense. Augie, let me ask you, is there anything in the chat? I know there's a couple of questions. Anything in the chat we want to ask?
Yeah, so there's 2 questions that came up. The first one is this a 20% interest loan?
Oh, no. I think I mentioned 20% interest loan, maybe in reference to predatory lending. But no, LISC business, small business loan products, we would never lend at 20%. If you see anyone quote you a 20% interest rate, please know that that is predatory and there are better options, whether it's LISC or another lender. We will help you find that. But LISC lends at 3 to 8%. The actual interest, the interest rate we lend at depends on a few different factors. One of which is the assessed risk of the project that is being financed. But another aspect to that is the available subsidy sources that we have available. So we have some really low cost capital that we can deploy at 3% right now, which is why that interest rate can be so low for some borrowers.
2 more questions, actually. So next one is there a criteria to meet communities of color?
It's a great question. I don't know that we have a specific percentage per se of like share of our loans that are made to communities of color, but I would say we prioritize communities of color and borrowers of color 100% of the time. The Entrepreneurs of Color Fund and the ABC program are targeted to BIPOC business owners and BIPOC-led nonprofit organizations. And so there's no specific share or I should say percentage that we meet, but we prioritize communities.
Madison, can I ask, is there is a question that I received. We've got some small businesses that are Arab, and I think that's that kind of distinction, whether that would qualify as a community of color within the criteria that you're defining.
Yes, we would consider that a community of color. It's pretty much, we define it very broadly and inclusively, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
There's one more question in the chat. It says, what are you looking for on the P&L and balance sheet? In particular, do you carve out startup costs for expansion from the list of liabilities?
Can you repeat the second part of that question?
Yes.
Yeah, let me jump in here real quick. I think the question is, we're looking at a P&L and a balance sheet.
Mhm.
Are there carve-outs in that P&L and balance sheet, right? Either for other special projects, let's say there's startup costs and things like that. So if you're
Right.
getting a company that's growing, they need more funds, and they've got some loans already, how do you address that, looking at their balance sheet and P&L?
Yeah, that's a great question. So primarily we look at the P&L to assess cash flow. And so we do want to see positive cash flow, that you're covering your already existing expenses. And we will look to make sure that including, covering your expenses such as raw materials and rent and electric, you're also covering any existing debts that you have. And that's really the primary area of focus in looking at the P&L and then balance sheet for kind of outstanding debts. But I would also say that, in instances, for example, of commercial property acquisition, in our analysis, we'll add back in any rent cost, because if you're moving to your own commercial property, you'll no longer be paying rent. And so, it's math, so it's a science, but there's also an art to it. It's looking at what is the project being financed, what does your business do, and how would this financing affect your big picture.
Understood. Looks like there's another question in here. If there's already an SBA loan, either through maybe EIDL, does that still qualify for help related to this? So how do you treat maybe existing pandemic related loans as part of this calculation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, as a general rule, it's a case by case basis. It certainly doesn't rule any small business out. Lots of businesses that we're seeing have EIDL loans or are in the process of getting their PPP loans forgiven. And so it certainly doesn't disqualify you from a LISC loan. We will check to make sure that you have the sufficient debt service cash flows, to cover additional debt. But as long as you have that and we're able to still take a UCC on business assets or a first DOT on a property, EIDL, PPP, other outstanding loans don't disqualify you.
Great, thank you. I'm thinking of going into the predatory lending business. I'll do 19% loans. I think it sounds like that'll just get me underneath there. So I'll put my info in the chat. No, I'm not going to do that. Anybody, Andrea, don't look at me. Okay, anything else before we move on? Any other questions for Madison?
We have time for one more question that I saw from the same person. It says, does LISC prioritize disabled veterans?
Yeah, that's definitely a priority group, I guess would be a good way to call it. or label it in our terms. So definitely reach out. We'd be happy to help you.
Great. And that was the last question in the chat.
Okay, let me just put my contact info up. If you are interested in connecting more on a small business or economic development loan for your business or nonprofit organization, please reach out. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Deb, but I will put my info in the chat.
Madison, Augie, I think we're ready to share.
Yep. Let me share my screen. 1 second.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Deb Membreno. I am a program officer at LISC LA. I also support as the project manager for Ascend LA. So really happy to be here with you all and have the opportunity to share a bit more about the program. This is one of our many accelerated programs at LISC LA. This one specifically focused on supporting small businesses in the construction and the professional service industry. Next slide. So Ascend LA brings together a network of nonprofit lenders. So as you heard from Madison, LISC LA is a nonprofit lender. We also work with education providers, anchor institutions to help diverse businesses grow and really meet the needs that they need, and specifically their capital market needs as well. So this program was developed by the University of Washington. We are funded by JPMorgan Chase. It's a national model, and so when you are part of this program, you're also part of a national network. We are one of 15 cities that implement this program. We specifically focus on supporting BIPOC businesses. And so, that includes people of color. We also work with women-owned businesses and those that work in low-income communities. Next slide. So why do we focus on this specific demographic? We know that research shows that businesses owned by people of color face systemic gaps. We know that the income disparities exist. We know that growing at the rate of their white counterparts is really difficult. Specifically, those that are owned by Latinx-owned firms are 1.0 times have lower revenues than those of their white counterparts. Black-owned firms also struggle. We see that the gap is about 5 times that of compared to the white counterparts. And so our hope is that we can reduce the gaps by providing businesses with wraparound resources and market access. Next slide. So how do we do this work? We implement what we call the 3M model. So as I mentioned before, we really focus on market, management, and money. So this allows businesses to expand their products, their offerings, which makes them more resilient in times of economic downturn. Specifically, COVID has been really hard. And so we've also changed a bit the model depending on what your needs are, but these are primarily the focuses. And so we work with different partners to be able to meet the different aspects of the program. Next slide. So we, as LISC LA, we lead the program as a project manager. We work with the County of Los Angeles to help us figure out, what is coming down the pipeline, what are the needs for procurement, for us to determine what kind of businesses that we work with. Our main partner is Loyola Marymount. I'll share a little bit more about the work that they do, but they're a really great university and they support with leading our management education pieces. And so they will be your primary professors if you are part of the program. And we also work really closely with GMC Alliance. They support businesses with one-on-one technical assistance, business development. So if you are interested in going after contracts locally in LA County, but also federally, they are business development experts. We know that BD support is really expensive. And so having a partner that could support with one-on-one business advising has been important for us. Next slide. All right, so the businesses that we are looking for, as I mentioned before, are specifically those who work in construction and professional services. We know that professional services is kind of like a broad category, but specifically we are looking for those who are doing project management, accounting. We also welcome businesses who provide HR services, IT, communications, marketing. Those in constructions that would be a good fit are general contractors, those working with commercial products, maybe those who are working on renovations. We also welcome small businesses that provide paintings, foundation, electrical, plumbing, tile installation, or concrete services as well. So as I mentioned before, we work really closely with LA County, and we know that there's a lot of contract opportunities in the construction space. We had, for example, the Super Bowl, we have the Olympics coming up. There's a lot of renovations happening with LAX. There's a lot of affordable housing work that is happening. And so we really want to make sure that we cater our program to local small businesses who can prime and also subcontract some of these projects. And so our work will also connect small businesses with networking opportunities, not only with LA County, but with other clients as well, to help you with, capturing those contracts, financing that work. So we might refer you to, for example, to work with Madison to figure out what are the types of loans that you can apply for. You'll have a one-on-one loan intake session with our team, and then also the management education pieces. Okay, so for actually one second, go back. So yeah, perfect. So the size of the businesses we're working with, so pretty small, right? 150K to 2 million is usually the range. We do work with businesses outside of that range, but this is kind of our focus area. And so if your revenue, we know revenues have been kind of all over the place these past couple of years. So we still encourage you to apply, but know that most of our businesses fall within that range. We want to make sure that at least one person identifies as BIPOC or is a woman. We want to make sure that you've been operating for at least 2 years, that you are located in LA County, or that you do most of your work in Los Angeles County, and being able to commit to the program. It's 7 months, but it's really, you meet maybe twice a month. You'll have a lot of emails that come specifically from the business development team, but that's for them to share opportunities for you to apply to contracts. And so your engagement may change a bit throughout the 7 months, but know that as far as class time, it's mostly just twice a month. Next slide. All right, so at the end of the program, or part of the program, you'll go through these 4 different components. So you'll have management education with LMU. So you'll be what we call kind of like a business student. You'll be getting sort of like a mini MBA. You'll also have networking opportunities. So we will schedule what opportunities for you to be able to meet your potential clients, ask them questions. These sessions will be specifically just for the Ascend cohort. And they know prior to joining the meeting, the clients will be able to see your profiles, see the type of work you do. And so maybe potentially also share new contract opportunities during those networking events. Again, one-on-one coaching. So you'll have 10 hours with the business development team. We've been really fortunate to work with GSC Alliance. We've had so far 3 different cohorts, and they have helped the cohorts win $18 million in contracts. So really excited also to have you all be part of the cohort and help you win some of those contracts. And as I mentioned, capital access. So either as LISC as your lender, or all the other wonderful partners that Madison mentioned before. Next slide. Yeah, so as part of this program, you primarily will be working with LMU, and they have a a curriculum scheduled for you, which includes entrepreneurship mindset, marketing, management education. They'll go over your credit. If you're specifically in construction, we'll go over bonding. And so, depending on whether you're on the construction side or the professional services side, they'll have specific classes for you. All of these classes are led by, some of the top professors in the country, experts in their fields. A lot of them also are business owners. And so, you'll be able to hear a bit about their experience as small business owners as well, and how they use each other and support each other with growing their business. Also part of this, being part of a cohort allows you to network within your cohort. We know that, if potentially you're leading a project and you need someone to work on your foundation, or you need someone to do your painting, for example, our hope is that through being part of this cohort, you're able to collaborate and also go after contracts together. Next slide. So the meetings are virtual. They happen on Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 12. Super early, but also, it's a fun group, and so we'll keep you awake. So, and it's over the span of seven months. And so it's not too demanding for the 16 classes. We know that sometimes you can't make some of the classes, which is totally okay. We'll record them. We know that some businesses decide, for example, the CEO can't be part of the program, but potentially someone else in leadership can take some of that time to be part of the program. So we welcome that as well. You'll have at least 2 networking sessions, and those are outside of the Saturday sessions, usually happen during the week. And also you may have like some meetings and some assignments from your business development team. And as I mentioned, these are kind of the modules here are what we cover during the courses, and something that's not included here is really doing a deeper dive into applying to contracts, and that's done through the business development team. All right, and some of the outcomes here, we want to make sure that we increase your revenue. Wherever you are, if you're not profitable currently or you're trying to increase your profit, we're here to support you. The classes are pretty standardized, like everyone will have the same courses, but you will also have, aside from the one-on-one business development support you'll receive, you'll have mentors at LMU. And so if there's something that you're specifically struggling with, whether your marketing, your sales, your financing, you can schedule some one-on-one time to be able to meet with the professors, and they see you as students, and so they're willing to practice with you. For example, if you're trying to practice your pitch, if you're trying to negotiate a specific contract and you need support, they're also there to work with you as well. And then you build a community even outside of the 7 months that you participate in the program. I know we stay in contact with our alumni, continue to help them find new contracts, and also just being part of the LMU community. Next slide. All right, so applications are currently open. They will close April 4th. So if you're interested, apply now. If you have friends that you would like to, share this information to, please share. I believe my colleagues here at the Chamber will be sharing the application link. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I've shared my email here in the chat. We will notify those who are accepted by the 15th, and we'll start on the 29th. The 29th is just like an orientation, but really to start the classes, it's probably going to happen a little bit closer to May, at least the classes with LMU. The application is pretty short. We mostly ask you about demographic information, your revenue. We just want to see if your goals for the program align with the curriculum. Again, we're pretty flexible, and so if there's something that we're not covering, we can make sure to edit the curriculum as needed. We ask for your CV, and so not much information that is being asked. And so one thing I do want to point out is the The program is free, but we do ask for $1,000 deposit, which is it's refundable. It's going to be returned to you at the end of the program. We just want to make sure that people are committed to the program, that they submit any surveys that are asked, the assignments. The assignments are really in line with, so for example, one of the assignments is building your capability statement, which is a 1 or 2 pager. And so that's helpful when you apply to contracts. So they're pretty minimal as far as the work. And if you need help, for example, LMU also supports with bringing on student volunteers who could help you build your capability statement. And so, yeah, we have an info session on the 31st. So we bring on our LMU colleagues to speak about the program as well. If you're interested in more of like the details of the curriculum, we're happy to provide more information there. So we ask you to join us and share it with anyone who might be interested. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Deborah, if I can pick up. So can you talk a little bit more about the types of companies that you're looking for? I know you mentioned construction, professional services. Is there a definitive list that says that we're only going to look at these companies, or is it generally speaking, these are the kind of groups we want to bring in?
Yeah, it's pretty general, and I think it really depends on the applications that we receive. Last year, last cohort, we only had construction. Previous to that, we had construction professional services. So, if it ends up being that we only mostly have construction applicants, then we'll gear our curriculum towards construction. But we're pretty flexible with construction. We're not really looking for any developers. We're primarily looking for those who are really doing the building. For professional services, again, we're focused on mostly accounting and project managers, and that has to do with the demand from LA County, but also open to, again, HR, communications, marketing. We also know that that's important for some of these contract opportunities that are coming down the line.
Great. Terrific. What other questions do we have for Deborah in the program?
Yeah, accounting, finance. I see that we have a question. Do you say accounting? Do you mean finance? Also, yep. Accounting and finance is businesses. We welcome those as well.
What about nonprofits?
So we're not accepting nonprofits. We're primarily accepting, for-profit small businesses.
Are you looking for large firms or small firms?
So small firms, for this program, we consider a small firm, again, anyone between 150K to 2 million a year. But, open to businesses that might be around that amount.
Are you open to internet consultants, businesses?
Yes, we are open to internet consultants as well. And I see there's a question about why not developers, especially Black developers. And this really just has to do with the curriculum and the contract opportunities that we have available.
Excuse me, I have another question.
Sure.
Do you accept for-profit, for-profit consultants who counsel nonprofit organizations?
Yes, and also if you are, I just want to make sure that we are transparent about the opportunities that will be provided for you. And so if you're open to also being able to provide services to Los Angeles County or LAWA, or are interested in contract opportunities outside of LA, those are just the type of support you'll get. So I think the management education pieces will be pretty relevant to a lot of different types of businesses, but a major also part of our program is that one-on-one business development consulting.
Thank you.
Tim, so you said who helps nonprofits? So LISC LA actually does support nonprofits just through other programming, or also we have close partners that support nonprofits. And so we're happy to connect you just specifically for this specific program. We're not supporting nonprofits.
Well,
believe I
Deborah,
see
thank
any
you
of the-
so much. Appreciate it. Before we end, though, I'd like to hand it over to Augie, who will share a little bit more on the Safer at Work portal. So, Augie, if I can turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. All right, so yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and speak a little bit about the Safer at Work portal. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over to the website. 1 second. And then if somebody from my team could go ahead and actually put the link to the website in the chat so that people can follow along or go ahead and browse it at their own time. But once you are on the site, this is what you'll see. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and go down to the employer's site. So you just click learn more. And this is a good website because it will provide you with the tools and resources that's going to help protect employers and their workers against COVID-19. So once you click on the employer section, there's going to be a couple of different topics that you could browse through. So if you were to click on one of these, it will drag you down to the bottom of the page or wherever it's located at. So as you can see, one of the topics here is vaccines in the workplace. And then there's a bunch of subtopics underneath that category. And then going down the list, we also have COVID-19 emergency temporary standards. This is where you would go if you are interested in creating a safer and healthier workplace. And then what if the possibility of one of your employees gets sick or they're exposed to COVID-19? And then the last area down here is where you can find more training and resources on the site and through their partners as well. For today's purposes, we're going to go ahead and scroll back up to the top. And when I click the COVID-19 employer portal, which is just right here, we're going to go ahead and click on the getting started. Now, this is where you're going to be able to create a customized roadmap around the local guidelines that really pertain to you in order to help operate or reopen. So once you have read the information that's up here above, you could go ahead and select the county where your business is located in. So I'll just go ahead and choose a random one right here. So Long Beach, Los Angeles County, and then I'm going to select my industry. Now it does say right here that you can select 6 business industries or activities. So for today, I'm just going to go ahead and choose one. I'll use childcare. If I wanted to add more, I would just go ahead and click this add plus button. But for right now, I'm just going to stick to just childcare, and I'm going to hit finish. It then generates that customized roadmap for you around the local guidelines. And then again, there's different topics that it will cover. So COVID-19 vaccine related information or physical distancing guidelines, and so on. And so from here, you do have 2 options. You could choose to just download the complete guide and save it. Or if you wanted to, you could have it emailed to yourself as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the Safer at Work portal. If you do have any questions, feel free to post them into the chat. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the presentation now, and we'll have Kevin wrap it up.
Thank you, Augies. Just a couple of announcements. First, there's free one-on-one advising that's available at the Chamber, so please make sure to sign up. This is with marketing, business operations, and more. Also, the Doing Business with LA County is on April the 28th at 10 a.m. This will be a program to give you more insight in what does it take to do business with the county. There'll be some discussions on what opportunities exist. We're really excited about it. It's going to be a good program. And then finally, our Small Business Strong program will be with Ernst & Young, and that's on April the 20th at 10 a.m. So if you check the chat, you'll see links for that for those meetings and content. So please feel free to take a look. So with that, thank you very, very much, Madison and Deborah. extremely helpful information and very important right now as companies look to move forward for this coming year. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Wells Fargo, GoBiz, and Together in LA. And thank you all for joining us. We really value the opportunity to provide this information to you, and we hope to see you soon. So take care. Thank you.